What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of Open Letters to a Survivor. We are glad to be back with you all as we were not here last Sunday. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight is a great night. Of course, the ladies have an amazing show in store for you all. I just kind of want to get a few words out there once again, just to welcome everybody and thank you all for tuning in. We have finally launched UG Digital Radio. So I'm so happy about the radio station launching. Everything is going good. Most who know already, or most who knew already, know that we have been playing music 24/7 for the last month. So we just went live with our live shows yesterday. So we had the entertainment plug and we had Real Talk with Reese, which both shows went off without a hitch yesterday. Very well. We are doing some new and modern and conventional things with radio, and we are blending podcasting, and it is just an all-out good time. So you don't want to miss this stuff. The entertainment plug is each and every Saturday at 10 a.m. Real Talk with is every other Saturday at 12 noon. And then we got some other shows that are interjecting in there as well. Of course, there will be some things happening with Open Letters to a Survivor that will hit the airwaves and the radio station. And of course, the station is available on Apple Music, on Odyssey, on TuneIn, of course, at ugdigital.com, and it will be on iHeartRadio sooner rather than later. So that is coming. But all of that aside, I want to go ahead and move forward with the show. Again, the ladies have an amazing amazing show in store. Is that a tongue twister tonight? And of course, Tim is going to be popping in here to take us to church. And I got some church last night. I went to a gospel concert, and man, listen. I could talk about it all night. It was so awesome. And I don't really too much be in church outside the Sunday, or maybe like Wednesday Bible study or something. But on a Saturday, it was what they say it was about,
Stop.
or it was a tap or something. One or the other. Just it was a good time. So we'll talk about that
So,
later. Let's open the door and hand off the baton to Lady Poet, that beautiful smile, Lady Poet. Let's go. Let's have it.
thank you, and thank you for always giving us a warm introduction as you do every week. And I just want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Of course, it's a new month, so guess what that is? It's a new series. So, guess what this series is? We tell y'all every week that we need to go to therapy together. So, the title of this series is Let's Go to Therapy. We have some phenomenal women of color that are counselors and therapists that will be on this series. So you don't want to miss that. So again, I am Lady Poet Speaks. I am the creator and founder. I do have my beautiful co-host Cassandra Williams, and K Love does send her love today in her absence. She will be back next week. And y'all will get her commentary and her funniness next week. So um we will be remiss if we didn't speak on her today. So, we always start off with the letter. And so Cassandra, I'll turn the floor over to you, and then she'll introduce our guest for today.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to Open Letters to a Survivor. And just as the title says, we're going to go ahead and get started with our open letter. Dear Survivor, you've overcome a lot to get where you are in your life today. What if I told you there's more to your healing, more to your elevation, more to you than being a survivor? To reach the next level of more, the next level of elevation, the next level of healing, you need to go to therapy. Why? Here are just a few reasons. Therapy provides a safe place to share your feelings and emotions without fear of judgment. Therapy can help you heal from grief and trauma so that you can live an even more fulfilling life. Therapy can help you set goals while identifying challenging while identifying and challenging negative thoughts and fears. Let's break generational cycles of mental health stigma and prioritize the strength and health of our minds in the same way we do for our bodies. You deserve it. Therapy is support, not punishment. Therapy is needed because you love yourself, not because you're crazy. Therapy is self care. So, with that being said, take care of yourself and be well as you elevate along your healing journey. Sincerely, Lady Poet Speaks, K Love, the entire team of Open Letters to a Survivor, tonight's guest therapist, Karyn DeShields Morton, and me, Cassandra Williams.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And so, with all of that being said, it is indeed my pleasure to introduce to you tonight yet another one of the fabulous members of the class of 94 from Renaissance High School in Detroit, Michigan. Yes, I said it, right? We bring into the stage tonight Miss Karyn DeShields Morton. Come on up, sis.
Yay.
Come on, James, get her up here. Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? We ready. We ready.
Right.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey.
Karen, what's up?
Nothing. How is everybody?
We're doing well. How are you?
I am great. Can't complain.
Awesome. Awesome. Listen, thank you so much for coming on to our show tonight. It is
It's my
indeed a
pleasure.
pleasure. Yes, and I am super excited. I told you, 94, we got this. Class of 94, Renaissance High School, Detroit, Michigan, baby.
Absolutely.
So we are going to go ahead and get this thing started so that our audience can hear more about Let's Go to Therapy and how we can remove stigmas in our communities. So I'm going to turn it over to Lady Poet Speaks to get us going.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So first of all, Cassandra told me don't tell nobody what year I was born. So I'm gonna be quiet on graduating in 1994. So we thank you also for coming on today show, but I want to go ahead with my first question. And my first question is tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me. I think this is an awesome platform. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
So my name is Karen Morton. I would describe myself as a mom, a creative intellectual, a sneakerhead, a hip hop head, and a black woman therapist.
Yes.
That's pretty much who I am in a nutshell. Um, I studied psychology undergrad and I worked in intake for a little bit. And then after that, I decided to go to law school. And so I worked for 20 years for the federal government.
Mm,
And in 2022, after a chaotic breakup and a mental breakdown from work
mm,
stress, I quit my job and I decided to focus on myself.
mhm,
So during that time, I realized that my second act professionally was to help Black people,
mm,
particularly Black women and Black couples. I wanted to help Black people focus on contentment instead of
mhm,
all these extreme expectations of excellence, being strong, being producers. All of that stuff is
mhm,
important, but contentment is where it's at. And so I wanted to come into this space and help people be well. You know, I want to help Black couples overcome poor socialization and
mhm,
generational models that devalue emotional intelligence, communication, and commitment. Um, because, like you said, there's a stigma attached to mental health, and it's not
mhm,
just about disorders or illnesses. It's about wellness.
Absolutely. And thank you for pointing that out for us. And I appreciate too that you have a focus not just towards Black women, but relationships. And I can go in a whole nother direction around that one, but I'm gonna stick to the focus on the show. I'm gonna talk to you afterwards about that one. Got a lot of questions. So my next question for you, Karyn, is what is your approach to therapy, and how do you tailor it to each client's needs?
Okay, well, so I take any clients. Let me be clear. Anyone adolescent to adult, any race, color, creed, sexual orientation. I don't care about any of that. But my focus is Black women and Black couples. And what I have noticed is that everybody, regardless of color, regardless of gender, needs to be met where they are. Very often we expect people to come into spaces ready and prepared. And often that's just not the case, right? And so that's the first thing is to meet people where they are. The second thing is to provide a safe space, particularly when we're talking about Black people, because we need to be able to show up to spaces and not have to code switch. Think about how often you go to the doctor and you have
Mhm.
things you want to say, things you want to get off your chest. But then when you get there in front of that person, you're like, okay, I got to put my face on,
Mhm.
right? Well, in therapy,
Yeah.
there's no space for that. There's no room for that. So have a safe space where people don't have to code switch, where they can show up as their authentic selves each and every time, right? I practice primarily integrative and holistic therapy. So basically, what that means is whomever shows up on my screen through communication and building rapport, we figure out together what it is you need and how to get there, right?
Mhm.
Um, so therapy with me, I tell every client I have will be safe, progressive,
Mhm.
challenging, and goal oriented.
Mhm.
Yes. I like that motto actually because sometimes you go, but then what is your goal? What do you want to get out of it? So I love that.
Thank you.
So my next question is, how do you handle situations where therapy seems to be progressing slow? And I don't want to say not working, but maybe just progressing slow.
Okay. Um, so usually you end up with two types of clients: people that come ready, focused, goal oriented, just ready to go. And for those people, a solution based therapy is what most psychologists will use. So, what that means is it's brief, it's usually like 8 sessions or so. Um, you use assessments to determine like where people are, and then you focus on the present. So, not worrying about the past problem so much, but focusing on the present. That's great when you have somebody that shows up ready to go.
Mhm.
But a lot of people show up to therapy unsure about what they want,
Mhm.
unsure about where they're trying to go. And so for those people, the first thing I do is tailor the sessions to the individual. I don't have like a cookie cutter kind of thing.
Right.
So that's the first way. Then second, assessments. Assessments give me data on where you are, and then I can continue to give them to you during the course of therapy to figure out, are you getting better?
Mhm.
Are you progressing? Are you degressing? What is happening? And then lastly, and this is, I think, one of the things that helps most in pushing therapy forward is letting the client know you're the leader.
Mm.
Mhm.
I'm just the coach. You the CEO. So I need you to show up. I need you to be willing to share. But I'm also going to give you assignments because I want you to take ownership in your results and your
Mhm.
outcomes. So I may leave a therapy session, and say, you know what, when we meet next week, I need you to have done X, Y, and Z.
Mhm. Thank you. And I think actually those assignments help. So I'm a big believer and advocate for therapy myself. So I make sure I keep my appointments because everything on the show I want to be authentic. I don't want to give viewers things that we're not doing as a team ourselves. So or even me personally as the creator. So I love doing those assignments, even though sometimes I throw the paper, I might throw the notebook. But Stacy said, when you spoke about content, she said, "What about content in which aspects?"
Oh, okay, about Black contentment. Um, I'm talking about in every way, actually, right? So I'll use the word joy. Maybe that's a easier word to understand, right? Um, Being happy where you are. Like, it's important, of course, to have goals and want to produce and be successful and all of that. That's great, right? But we are worthy as we are right now. You don't have to buy worthiness. You don't have to earn it. You worthy as you are. And so realizing that, being content in that space, if we can start there, all that other stuff becomes a little easier, I think. I hope I answered her question.
Yeah, and she has another one. She said, "Do you see a common theme with couples?"
Um, yes, communication. Um, and I'm gonna tell you why a little bit. So we are socialization in in America, let's say, kind of sucks, right?
Mhm.
How young boys are socialized, how young girls are socialized. It's kind of a setup for failure. And so most couples come with that into the relationship, right? However you were socialized. So if you had that uncle that told you, you don't never cry, don't ever let me see you cry. You know, you don't talk about your emotions. You keep that stuff to yourself. Or if you had an aunt that says, you a black woman, you always got to show up perfect and polished and this and that, right? That's what we bring to our relationships. And so a lot of that socialization is what causes a problem between two parties trying to come together. You know, these generational models that don't talk outside the house. We've all heard that, right?
Yep.
Um, don't share your emotions. Emotions are weakness. So kind of getting through that stuff is what I find is most common in couples, and what it kind of ultimately rests upon is an inability to communicate with each other because they're coming from two different spaces and places.
Okay, that's great. And I had to learn that too. That emotions are actually a sign of strength and not weakness. So,
That's why God gave them to us.
right, exactly. And um, do you have any certifications or specializations in particular? Um, those like CBT or EMDR or mindful based approaches?
So I practice a variety of different models. CBT is kind of like the mainstay that doesn't work for everybody, but it is like the most common thing that therapists start off with, at least. Mindfulness. I also practice what's called dialectical behavioral therapy, which is DBT, which basically just means radical acceptance. Like, so whatever has happened to you, just, excuse me, accepting that and figuring out how to progress through it, right? Um, Solution based, which is I talked about before, trauma focused, and couples therapy. So those are the things I do primarily. I did do postgraduate certifications in trauma focused and couples therapy. Everything else was pretty much really well covered in my master's program. So I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I've been to school a long time. I ain't trying to go no more than I have to. So EMDR is interesting to me,
Mhm.
but I do a lot of telehealth and
Mhm.
EMDR. From what I know, you need to be in person. And so
Mhm.
that's just not something I've delved into, but I do find
Mhm.
it interesting. I will say that.
Okay, thank you for that.
And Karen, as you've been talking about communication, and I know for sure with me and my relationship, that was a huge issue. And that whole, like, kind of being told, well, feelings, they're nothing. Feelings don't mean anything. I'm like, well, then why are we talking about it, right?
Right.
Because clearly you feel in a kind of way, right? So,
Right.
and we all have feelings and emotions for a reason. Like nobody's completely emotionless. And so we have to start stepping past that, and that there's nothing wrong with being vulnerable, like especially with your partner. Like if you can't be vulnerable with them and yourself, who you gonna be vulnerable with?
Right.
And
Exactly.
so that was always an issue with us. And so you pointing and highlighting that aspect of communication really struck a chord with me. And so my question to you is, what is your philosophy on the therapist client relationship, and how do you foster trust and communication?
Okay. Um, so building rapport is extremely important because you don't know this person.
Hmm.
This is a complete stranger. Um, I know that people would love to be able to be counseled by their friend or their brother or their sister, but that's a conflict, right? So these individuals that you come into contact with are strangers.
Hmm.
And so fostering a safe, collaborative, but also very professional
Hmm.
um, space, I think is extremely, extremely important, right? So as a therapist, I create boundaries. I'm very
Hmm.
upfront about what the boundaries are. Um, and I want the client to be as well, right?
Hmm.
Um, I'm gonna maintain professionalism at all times. So now I have dubbed myself the unserious therapist, right? And I will tell you why. Because I'm silly. Um, if you get me to talk long enough, because I don't really like to talk, I'm introverted extremely. So if I'm going to talk, it's probably going to be full of jokes, right? And so, but at the same time, I let my clients know I'm easy, I'm cool, right? But I'm professional as well. We're going to handle business
Yeah.
at all times. Um, to keep things confidential and make sure your client understands that what they're telling you is confidential.
Mhm.
Um, to not confuse the client therapist relationship with friendship,
Mhm.
because it's not that.
Mhm.
You have to have strict boundaries as far as that comes. And other than that, just letting them know you are free to come into this space and talk about whatever is bothering you. I don't have like, and I know some therapists do, and that's fine, but I don't have like a lot of limitations,
Mhm.
right? You can
Mhm.
say what you want to say. You will not offend me. I promise. You will
Right.
not offend me. You can show up as you are. I had a young lady show up taking her braids down because that was the
Mhm.
only time that she could do it. And she
Mhm.
apologized like profusely. I was like, girl, you good. Long as your mouth work, we straight.
Yeah.
Right.
Long as you could talk.
Right.
And so, but I also need to make sure my clients understand this will be a challenge. This is not
Mhm.
supposed to be easy.
Mhm.
Change is never easy.
Yes.
Healing is never easy.
Right.
Being well is not easy. So as long as they're willing to share and show up, I'm gonna be professional. I'm gonna create boundaries. I'm gonna be cool and easygoing, but I'm also gonna challenge you.
Right.
Awesome.
And I always say that healing is one of the most painful, but it's one of the most necessary journeys you will ever embark on. So I think that, and even just telling myself that, I always tell other people that too. So, yes, it's not easy, but it's one of the most painful yet most necessary journeys you can embark on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so
And
I see Stacy Lynn has on Reasonable Doubt, there was a therapist that asked if they wanted to uncouple. Do you ever recommend that?
Oh, that's a interesting question. So when couples show up, that is my first question.
Mm,
Why are you here? What is
mhm,
your goal? Are you trying to remain together? Or are you trying to uncouple peacefully?
mm,
And either of those things is fine.
right.
Because I'm not here to judge what it is you want to do. And I think it's important for people to understand all relationships don't last.
Hmm.
It's an unfortunate reality, I think, for most of us, especially
Hmm.
women,
Yeah.
right? Um, However, I think that that's true. You know, my grandmother told me when I was a little girl, um, you're gonna have boyfriends and relationships. Most of them will end. You can only marry one.
Right.
So most of those other ones will come to an end. And you've got to figure out what was the lesson in all of those things. Right.
Hmm.
And so that's what
Hmm.
when people do, because I have had someone say that they wanted to uncouple, but then they changed their mind, which was great. But from the beginning, my only goal was let's make sure this happens peacefully.
Hmm.
Right. Let's make sure both of you leave the situation well. Right.
mhm,
Hmm.
yeah.
Wow. That was a really good question. And I'm glad that came up. So thank you, Stacy, for asking that. Because yeah, asking me if I wanted to uncouple again, that's a whole different show. And so
Me too, 'cause I tried for 2 years. It, it didn't work. And so now that's why he's my husband and not my husband, okay?
It
no,
is
no
what it
offense.
is.
Hey, it is. But yeah, so Karen, as we stated earlier, in our communities, Black communities in particular, because you kind of come with those stigmas around, you discuss whatever happens at home stays at home, and these type,
Mhm.
you don't have to go out and cry. You're not a man if that's what you're doing, and these types of things. And so, coming with that, we don't tend to normally seek help, particularly going to therapy, right, as help. And so, what encouraging word can you give to someone who may need therapy and just doesn't know how to do it or where to start?
Okay, so can we backtrack just a little bit? Let's start with the first thing you said. So
Mm,
our communities don't normally seek help, right? So 25% of Black people seek therapy present day. That number was 14% pre-pandemic.
mhm,
That's a significant jump.
yeah,
So what is normal is changing,
right,
right? When you consider that only 3% of therapists are Black,
right,
that to me is the bigger problem. A
mhm,
little less about people coming to therapy, because, like I said, that's increasing.
mhm,
But the fact that only 3% of psychologists are Black, and that's not Black women, that's Black, period.
right,
And the majority of those people are women. So if someone is seeking therapy, right, one of the biggest things It's finding somebody that they're comfortable with, right?
Mhm.
And to be comfortable sharing, to feel like you can show up somewhere authentically. A lot of
Right.
times you want someone that looks like you. And so
Mhm.
for me, one of the bigger issues now is not so much the stigma attached to therapy, even though obviously that's still there,
Right.
but the fact that the field in and of itself doesn't do
Is it?
more to
Mhm.
encourage Black therapists to come and be a
Mhm.
part of this to
Mhm.
me, because 3% is crazy in my
Right.
mind. Now,
Right.
that that being said, um,
Yeah.
for someone that is hesitant
Mhm.
about therapy, right? First thing is, it's just like exercise. You got to start it.
Mhm.
That first day going to the gym is the hardest day.
Mhm.
You sit in the car, you like, oh God, I got to go in here. But once you go and do it and get back in the car, you like, oh my God, I can't wait to come back.
Mhm.
So starting is the hardest part.
Mhm.
Now, when you're starting, I think one of the very most important things is not to blindly pick a therapist. So people are
Mhm.
hesitant, right? They go
Mhm.
on these sites, they try to find somebody maybe that looks like them or that is available or that responds or whatever. But blindly picking somebody just because they call you back is a bad idea. Take
Mhm.
advantage of phone consultations. That's what they're for. So
Mhm.
contact, let's say, 3 to 5 therapists. Set up
Mhm.
3 to 5 phone consultations. Have a list of your questions. Have a list of things you want to know about that person, right?
Mhm.
And then decide who you want to try out.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because what that will do, and that's before you even start therapy, right?
Right.
So what that will do is it will already arm you with some comfort because you know that somebody wasn't just referred to you, you weren't just stuck with somebody. You
Mhm.
played a part in choosing your
Mhm.
healthcare provider.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
Karen, I'm gonna go back to that gym analogy real quick because sometimes that first day, sometimes it can be easy. You know why? Because you excited, right? And so it's like, all right, I got this. I'm looking forward to these results. I'm gonna get my muscles, I'm gonna get my body right. This whole thing. How do you keep coming back?
Mm,
Because be going in is, you got these expectations and you're excited and it's new and you ready to hit the ground running. And then you get in there and you like, whoa, like this is
Right.
work, like for real, for real. How do you keep coming back to it?
okay, so that's a excellent question. Um, any therapist will tell you that no shows are a big deal and they are very common.
Mhm,
So you get the person to come in for intake, right? You
mhm,
go over everything and then they don't show up the next time. Or they come a few times and then they just kind of start trickling off.
mhm,
And what I have found is that A, people need to be a part of the process. So when people feel disconnected from the
mhm,
process,
mhm,
that's going to mean they're not going to be as excited about
mhm,
showing up anymore.
mhm,
Right.
So that's part of it. The other part is making sure that they are as much in charge,
mhm,
take that to mean whatever you will, right?
mhm,
Of what happens in session as the therapist. Again, I'm the coach, you the CEO. You lead me, right? Now, if you get
mhm,
stuck, I can
mhm.
help you out of that.
Right.
But the goal here is for you to want to show up every week because you feel
Mhm,
like at the end of that hour, I got something so valuable. I need
Yeah.
to keep coming back for it until at
Mhm.
least I get to the place where I've met my goals. Right. So it's
Yeah.
imperative upon me to include them in every aspect. So
Mhm.
different a little bit from exercise, right? Because that's just
Mhm.
you and
Right.
the weights. Because I'm here. So let's say you have a trainer,
Mhm.
right? Same situation. The
Mhm.
trainer is supposed to call you. Hey, where you at? I do that. Don't show up to my session. You're going to hear from me.
Mhm.
Where you at? What you doing? Now, if somebody says, oh, I'm not feeling well, or oh, I had to work, I'm sorry, not a problem. Just let me know beforehand next time, right?
Mhm.
Always making sure that they're a part of what's going on. Because I'm not just doing this myself,
Yeah.
and I think um the challenging aspect, like people don't like to be challenged, but once
Mhm.
you are, you realize how much you need it,
Mhm.
right? And so I think there is a combination of things that keep you coming back, but especially when you have somebody there to help you. I'm here to help. I'm here to assist, right? I'm gonna throw you the ball, but you got to be ready to catch it.
Right.
Right. And I just want to piggyback off of what you said about basically what you're looking for in a therapist before you go. So when I did my first appointment, I said, look, I said I had like four different requirements. One, they had to be African American. Two, they had to be like not necessarily Christian based, but Christian values because I'm a firm believer in having God and the therapist too. So I need to be able to touch on both aspects while I'm talking to you. Um,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and then the third thing was that, I needed to have somebody that specialized in trauma as well, but I had to feel comfortable. And the person that I've been with for more than a year, that I've been with for more than a year. The first meeting I met, I said, let me tell you something. Cookie cutter approaches don't work with me. I done been through too much to have the same thing that you use on somebody else. So you got to think outside the box with me. And
Mhm.
since then, it's been comfortable. So I'm just telling everybody, it's okay to list what you're looking for and the demands you have with that. Because if you want to get your best healing or what you feel like is your healing, you got to advocate for yourself. So whatever that looks like, you have to do it. And
Yeah.
so, in doing that, that was like my first time really advocating with myself. But I think I found the best match for me like possible because it's like you said, oh, I look forward to it going every week. When it's the day
Mhm.
of, I'm like, oh, I can't miss my appointment. I'll talk to y'all later because I know I know that I gotta be challenged. I got too many goals set to not reach them. So if I miss a week, that might take this goal a week longer for me to get when I could have handled it right then and there.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Being an advocate for yourself is extremely important because all therapists are not built alike.
oh
Mhm.
And everybody is not necessarily going to be able to do what it is you're looking for,
Right.
right? If you're looking for, trauma therapy, like you discussed, everybody is not
right.
well versed in trauma therapy, right? Um, so that's something you need to discuss beforehand.
Mhm.
And that's why I think the phone consultation is so important. But also, like you said, coming with like some wants and some needs.
Mhm.
Now I can tell you whether I can meet them or not,
Right.
because there's no such thing as a perfect therapist,
Right.
right? Or a perfect person for that matter.
Right.
But
Right.
when you come prepared, I'm gonna come prepared. So if you
Mhm.
come prepared, then we're gonna have hopefully the best outcomes possible.
Right.
Right. And before I do my last question, I just want anybody to know if you had a bad experience with a therapist, that does not mean to stop going. It means to take everything that we're telling you today and look for another one. And we do have resources. So, with that being said, how can any of our viewers reach out for additional resources or support if they need it?
So I have a website, Karen Lynn Morton. That's Karen with a Y, Lynn Morton.com. I can be found on Facebook, Karen Morton Wellness, and just a Google search,
Mhm.
literally.
Mhm.
I tried to make sure I was available in every way possible.
Yes.
Um, so Karen with a Y, Lynn Morton, just type it in Google. I promise you I will come up.
Well, thank you. And I also always let our viewers know that if you do want to reach out for services, you can email us at open letters to a survivor at gmail.com. Put in the subject Karen with a Y, or let's go to therapy, and we'll get you connected with anyone that's on our series. And we'll be able to get assistance with that. So I do want to thank you so much, like I said, for coming on today and just giving your words of wisdom and helping people, hopefully making that ultimate decision to get their help and make that best investment on themselves. So we
Yes.
do
Thank
want to.
you.
You're welcome. And so we will add you too to our Let's Go to Therapy segment so people can find you. I do have therapists in Cleveland, but since Cassandra rep in Detroit, we want to have some to connect with there too. So we'll make sure we put that in as well. And you're welcome to stay as Tim does our motivational minute. We do invite you to stay on to the end of the show. So with that being said, we'll bring Tim on for our motivational minute. Then I'll do our spotlight, and then Cassandra, you can do our closing.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And Tim, take us to church like you always do.
Hey everyone, I'm just so blessed to be on the whole entire time to hear about the therapy. That's so important because we all need help. We never can do this on our own. You need someone to help guide you along the way. You need the Lord and allow the Lord to lead you to the right person. Even within myself, when I was on a little hard path in March, I was in a real bad shooting. Somebody was shooting at my car, in a relationship, thinking I was preparing for marriage, but the Lord had another plan for me. But
Mhm.
throughout that journey, I went through some things and got to join in with some therapy. But I prayed on it and I asked the Lord to send the right person to me. And then one requirement that I had didn't have a race requirement. But one requirement was from my job that I need someone that that's spiritual, that
Mhm.
knows the Lord and loves the Lord, because you can't just be around just anybody. You have to
Mhm.
pray on and allow the Lord to send you to the right organization and the right person. But the main thing you have to know is God is in control. God
Mhm.
is still in control. And
Mhm.
yes, trust in that person, but put your faith trust in the Lord first. Allow God to lead you through and hear the Lord. You can even hear the Lord speaking through that person to help you along the way, but you have to put in the work for your on your own. You have to continually trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to your own understandings, but in all thy ways acknowledge him and he'll continually direct your path. But the main thing you
Mhm.
gotta know is God is in control. As David even acknowledged the Lord in Psalms 24:1, and I would just be brief. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and all they that dwell therein. That's allowing us to know that God is the ultimate controller and the ultimate healer and the ultimate provider. We have to continually encourage ourselves, not to continually encourage everyone to know that God is in control, and He'll bring you through. He'll fight your battles. He'll bring you through. He'll bring you through that stress. He'll bring you through that heartache. He'll bring you through everything that's going on, the diseases, the cancer, even going through death, experiencing your loved one passing away from the earth.
Mhm.
But the Lord gives us hope, and gives us hope to know if your loved one was right with the Lord and knew Him, and you know Him, you shall see your loved one once again. But the main thing to know is God is in control, and He'll fight your
Mhm.
battle. He'll bring you through. I love what Psalms 24, I believe it's in the seventh verse when it says, "Look up, lift up your heads, O ye gates, and even lift them up, the everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Lift your heads up and allow God to come on in. Like, who is the king of who is the king, the Lord of hosts? He is the king of glory. The Lord mighty in battle. The Lord is mighty. The Lord is gonna be for you. He's gonna direct your path. But you gotta know that God is in control. He's gonna bring you through. The sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared to the glory that shall be revealed within us. And God's glory is gonna bring you through. Just know that God is in control. You're only in this for a season. You're only in this time just for a moment. But no, it's only a test. When you get through it, you'll have a testimony. Apply your faith in the Lord and allow God to bring you through. And pray on it. And don't just be on your own. Ask the Lord to send you the right person in your life to help you get on the right path. So put in the work. Do what the Lord is telling you to do. Do what that person is telling you to do. But trust in the Lord first. Ask the Lord, is this the right person for me? And apply the work within your life. And you'll come out great. You'll feel great. You'll even look great. And you'll be great. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. And lean not to your own understandings, but in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Proverbs 3, 5 through 6. God bless you, and God keep you.
Thank you, Tim, for always giving us a good word. And I will be using your slogan again in a minute, so you're gonna hear it in a few minutes. But thank
Yeah,
you so much.
I know, sneaking that in there.
Right. So thank you. Karen, you'll be abreast to it pretty soon. It's an inside joke. So you'll be
Okay.
I'm go over it so you'll hear it. So that actually, so we thank you for that, Tim. We'll see you next week, and you'll also be one of our guests in December to talk about what you're doing in our spotlight section. So I'll let you talk about that more later on. But thank you. We'll see you next week.
All right, see you all. Enjoyed you all.
Thank you. See you. All right. So that brings me to the spotlight section, which is where the inside joke comes from. Um, so on today's spotlight, we actually have three people for our spotlight now. So we are growing. We're happy about that. So today we spotlight author Lena Griffin Mays and her first book, Redeemed and Washed Clean, that you can find on Amazon. I'll give a little bit. She was our guest on October 20th, and she talks about her redemption and finding God after drug addiction. So please go ahead and buy her story today. It's again on Amazon. Just type in Redeem and Wash Clean and her book will appear. We also have our very own Timothy Stevens, who was just doing for our motivational minute, who's launching his um accessory line for men's accessories for like church cufflinks, ties, hats, everything, called Righteous Brothers Accessories. So contact him today on Instagram at right.brothers216 and he will get you together. His slogan is get right, feel right, stay right so you can grow right. So that's where the joke comes from because he used it in his motivational minute. And and lastly, we have China Black. She was a guest in our Greek series. With her spotlight on Marvel Your Strength, and she does like t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, glasses. You could direct message her at Marvel the Strength on Instagram as well as Facebook. And she'll be able to take care of all of those needs. To find out how to get onto our spotlight section, please email us at openletterstoasurvivor@gmail.com and in the subject line, put spotlight. And always, as this series is titled, is Let's Go to Therapy Time. So let's go to therapy. We have Dr. Shamara Thomas Hutchins with a round the clock approach to therapy. So whenever you're free, they do have counselors with a flexible approach for that therapy. She does specialize in trauma and she does take youth as well as adults. You can book her or look her up anywhere on all social media platforms at the Mindologist. Again, that's the Mindologist on all social media platforms. We also have Belinda Williams with the Cleveland Health and Wellness Center, who specializes in trauma. So you can email her today to set up an appointment, and that's Belinda at chaw.org. And she does take care of our people and our community. And to also get your business, or if you're a therapist, to get in our Let's Go to Therapy segment, please email us at openletterstoasurvivor@gmail.com. And that subject line, we want you to put Let's Go to Therapy. So thank you for that. We did take care of that business. And we'll turn it over to Cassandra, and then we'll close for the evening.
All right. And so, excuse me, from me, we're going to be looking at sponsorship, right? So, your support matters. By sponsoring Open Letters to a Survivor, you join us in our commitment to improving mental health outcomes for people of color and tackling systemic disparities. Help us continue this important work by becoming a sponsor. Reach out to us at openletterstoasurvivor@gmail.com, and in that subject line, write sponsor.
Thank you so much for all of that. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Karen, thank you so much for being a guest and giving us that wonderful insight today. And so we're asking everybody that's watching to please like, comment, share, subscribe. And we'll see you guys next week at 7 p.m. For our next therapist that will be on to talk about their business. We'll have a new set of questions, a new therapist, and we'll be able to talk about that. We also want to have you back on our last episode for this month as we do a panel discussion.
I'll be there.
Thank you so much. So we want to tell everybody we love you. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you next week. Bye.